Hi, my name is Emre Güler. I'm a PhD student at Ruhr-Universität Bochum, and I'm presenting Cupid automatic fuzzer selection for collaborative fuzzing. We worked on this in collaboration with researchers at University Amsterdam. So the motivation that we have to do collaborative fuzzing is basically the same that you have in any kind of fuzzing scenario. You want to find bugs, maybe security vulnerabilities. The scenario may be that you have this specific target in mind that you want to find security vulnerabilities in, or maybe you want to do this periodically on every release, on every commit. So you might have a dedicated machine for that, or you might use your own developer machine. In either case, you have some limited resources to do the fuzzing with. So what you want to do basically is you want to maximize the return on investment given a fixed resource. You want to find as many bugs as possible in the shortest amount of time. So we know from people in the industry what they actually use is parallel fuzzing. So multiple fuzzers in parallel that work on the same problem. They share their corpus, they share their seed files. But in this case, the question that one might have, maybe not obviously what you would have, is it might not seem obvious to you, but which fuzzers would you pick to do your parallelized fuzzing? So in collaborative fuzzing, the question of why wouldn't you use 4 instances of the same fuzzer if you have 4 CPU cores, for example, is what if AFL is bad at a particular problem? For example, magic byte checks. Then, of course, in this scenario, if you have multiple instances of that fuzzer, you will not necessarily be better at solving that problem. That problem will prevail. So that's where a paper comes in called EnFuzz. And these researchers, they showed that actually it's better to have a diverse set of fuzzers instead of multiple instances of the same fuzzer. So they had a list of fuzzers, and every time they used 4 instances of the same fuzzer, it was not as good as a set of different fuzzers, right? So in our case, we actually use this diversity metric too, but we developed our own metric, which is called the complementarity metric. So when do we know that fuzzers are complementary? So which fuzzer should we pick? So as an example, we fuzzed a binary called free-type2. It's from the Google's fuzzer-test-suite with libfuzzer and hongfuzz. And then we extracted how often this fuzzer was able to solve any of those branches. So every cell that you see here is the probability of that fuzzer for solving that specific branch. So every black cell means that these branches were solved all of the runs that libfuzzer had. Because of inherent randomness in any fuzzing process, we can't actually just let libfuzzer fuzz free-type2 only once and then hope that we will find out if it's good at solving these branches or not. We have to do multiple runs and then calculate the probability. So the white cells means it was never able to solve this branch in the given time period that we had. And gray means something in between. For example, only 50% of its run, it was able to solve this branch in the limited time window that we gave them. So if you look at this, then you might say it's obvious that hongfuzz is the better fuzzer. Hongfuzz has a lot more of these black cells. It solves a lot more branches. So this is the better fuzzer. So if someone comes to you and says, no, we have 2 CPU cores, we want to use 2 fuzzers in parallel, which of these fuzzers should we choose? Should we say 2 times libfuzzer, or should we use 2 times hongfuzz, or should we mix both of them? So in case that you picked 2 times hongfuzz because it looks like the better fuzzer, then we have some calculation here how the probabilities will improve if you combine both of these fuzzers. And you can see here you have a lot more black cells, and on average you will find a lot more branches in this case. In case of 2 times libfuzzer, you can see here you have a lot more gray area now. So the average number of branches has increased here as well. So you might be going towards 2 times hongfuzz. But what if you mix both fuzzers? What if you combine libfuzzer with hongfuzz? As you can see in this demonstration, yeah, there is some overlap in the branches that both of them can solve, but there are a lot of branches that only one of them can solve and not the other one. So if we combine both of them, they profit from the advantages of each other while also ironing out all the disadvantages that they have. So the combination of a diverse set of fuzzers is better than just two instances of the same fuzzer in this scenario. So for Cupid, what we wanted to do is we wanted to basically get rid of the human expert that EnFuzz needed, the paper that we introduced earlier. What they did was basically derive some heuristics that a human expert can use to judge fuzzers by. For example, they look at the instrumentation method or the scheduling mechanism of two fuzzers, and then they can say, oh, they're different enough so they can be used together. But we did not want to have any human biases. Also, we want to do it data-driven way. So we want to automatically collect some data on how fuzzers do and then predict how they will do in collaborative fuzzing runs. So we just look at single isolated fuzzers, not in combination with other ones. Our data does not reflect how well it works with other ones because we want to avoid exponential growth. So if we pick every pair of two fuzzers, then we will have exponential growth every time our pool of fuzzers increases. So we did not want to do that. We want to do it on single isolated fuzzers to have linear growth instead of exponential growth. Also, what we did is we did not want you to have a binary and say, can you make a prediction which fuzzers I should use for this specific binary? But we wanted to make a prediction that's generally applicable to any future fuzzing scenario, that a combination that's on average better than all other combinations. So of course this will not work on every binary. Some binaries are special and some specific binaries will work better on this fuzzer than on others, on this binary, sorry, than on others. But on average, you might be able to find fuzzers that you should basically always use because you have better chances on average. So how did we collect the data that we use to make this prediction which fuzzers will work well together? So basically what we want to do, we want to find fuzzers that are complementary, which I've shown before with the matrix and the cells. So complementarity for us basically means we want to find fuzzers that solve different branches. So the ideal scenario, the theoretical scenario would be this. What if we could test every fuzzer on all possible branches that it will ever see in future fuzzing scenarios? Of course, this is not possible, but theoretically, if we had this data, then what we could do is we can look at two fuzzers that were tested on the same branches, and we would be able to say, hey, they solve these kind of different problems. So if we merge them, if we let them run collaboratively, they might profit from each other, and then we would be able to calculate how well they would profit from each other. So because this is not possible in real life, what we instead want to do is we pick a diverse set of binaries. So we picked 10 binaries out of Google's fuzzer-test-suite that are really diverse in their purpose and their nature. There's some network application stuff in there and also image parsing stuff, for example. So what we want to do is we want to let every fuzzer fuzz every binary for a short amount of time, but many times, again, because of inherent randomness. And then we will collect how often this fuzzer was able to solve all of the branches that it encountered in this limited time period. And the idea here is basically to say, if we pick our diverse set of binaries well, then hopefully it will to some degree represent all the branches that we will see in future. So in average, that should work out. And also we want to use seeds, different seeds to explore more of the program space, so not just one single seed. So this is what Cupid basically looks like. We give a few training binaries, a few fuzzers and seeds to Cupid. It makes some runs and collects the data, and then it uses the data to make a prediction of fuzzer combination that you can use in any fuzzing scenario. So this offline phase, it's only required once in total, and then you can use it in any online phase in the future to fuzz your binaries. So for the evaluation, we asked us basically two questions. So how well does Cupid predict real-world ranking? So the prediction that we make, how well fuzzers will work together, how well does it actually work? So it turns out we have a strong positive correlation between what we predict will happen, how the fuzzer combination will score, and how they actually score on real binaries that we did not have data on, so on the test binaries. Also, the other question was, can our automatic selection of fuzzers actually beat manual expert-guided selection of fuzzers by EnFuzz? So yes, it turns out, even though we have access, Cupid had access to the same set of fuzzers, it was able to pick a combination of fuzzers that beat an expert-guided combination of fuzzers. We had more code coverage, we found coverage faster, and we found more bugs. Basically, additionally, Cupid was able to beat two different combinations. So EnFuzz actually used one combination to target specifically Google's fuzzer-test-suite, and one combination to specifically target lava-m. And our single selection of fuzzers was able to beat both of those combinations. So to conclude, you should not use the same instances of fuzzers. You should use a complementary set of fuzzers to maximize your return on investment given a fixed resource. Also, we demonstrated that you can use data on single isolated fuzzer runs to predict how well some fuzzer combinations will perform. And also, we have shown that our data-driven approach actually beats human expert-guided fuzzer picks. Thank you for listening. You can reach out to me. We will release the code on this GitHub address. You will also find the link to our artifact evaluation. And thank you for listening.